Hey, I'm Jana, the little sister.
And I'm Jeff, her big brother. Welcome to Sibling Rivalry, a podcast about our favorite sport, baseball.
This week on Sibling Rivalry Baseball, we discuss why it's important to keep your eye on the ball.
If you don't, the ball may hit you in the eye. And while I can see, let's take a look at some SRBB headlines.
Rennie Stennett, second baseman for the Pittsburgh Pirates from 1971 to 1979, has died after battling cancer. He was 72. He was part of the first all-black and Latino starting lineup in Major League history and the only player in the modern era to go 7 for 7 in a 9-inning game. In his 11 Major League seasons, he hit .274 with 41 home runs and 432 RBIs.
Marv Albert, the voice of the NBA for many years, has announced his retirement after he calls this season's Eastern Conference Finals. He started his career in 1963 on the radio. Albert has called everything from football to boxing, baseball, hockey, and tennis. He was the voice of the New York Rangers before taking over as the voice of the Knicks. He has called 13 NBA Finals, 25 All-Star Games, and the Dream Team's gold medal romp through the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. He's now 80 and plans to retire to gardening and ballroom dancing.
Phil Mickelson has made history. He is the oldest person at age 50 to win the PGA Championship. Mickelson finished 6th under 282 for the tournament. Crediting diet and meditation as helping him win, he had tweeted out to followers before the championship began, "I failed many times in my life and career, and because of this, I've learned a lot," Mickelson wrote. "Instead of feeling defeated countless times, I've used it as fuel to drive me to work harder. So today, join me in accepting our failures. Let's use them to motivate us to work even harder." This mantra helped him win his second PGA Championship in 16 years. His first win was in 2005.
U.S. Baseball begins their pursuit of one of two spots left for the Olympics, managed by Mike Scioscia and including former Major Leaguers Matt Kemp, Todd Frazier, Homer Bailey, Matt Wieters, and others will play starting Memorial Day. Their grouping includes Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. Games will be played in Port St. Lucie and Palm Beach, Florida. Victors will move on to the finals. The Olympics, after being postponed last year, will start on July 23rd in Tokyo. Check out WBSC.org for scheduling and other information. You can find these and past week's headlines on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Remember to rate and subscribe wherever you listen, and tell a friend to listen to the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
We love our listeners. We want you to download and listen to the podcast and share it with others. We just ask you to acknowledge Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast as the source of the material. Please do not, except with our express written permission, distribute or commercially misuse the content.
Long weekend coming up. Got Memorial Day, and on Memorial Day, many things are happening, like Team USA starts playing towards getting their spot in the Olympics. College baseball's got some announcements coming up on Monday the 31st. A big milestone in MLB history we'll talk about in Around the League. But right now, and before we get to college baseball update, we've talked about this before, and we've just been looking at more information about injuries around baseball. Ken Rosenthal wrote a quick article about the injuries, a lot of hit by pitches. We know that Corey Seager is out after being hit by a pitch. Ronald Acuna Jr., his wasn't as bad. He had a contusion, but he got hit in about the same area as Corey did. So it's just, there's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of hit by pitches. And what really kind of made it stand out this week was Kevin Pillar.
He was dealt the harshest blow right in the face with a 94-mile-per-hour fastball. He suffered multiple nasal fractures. It was against the Braves. Jacob Webb, unfortunately, was the pitcher that threw it. He felt horrible, had never really been in this situation before. The scene on the field was really hard to watch. For the players on the field, just everybody. But Pillar did get up and was able to walk off the field, and he did undergo surgery last week to repair those fractures. So hopefully he will be back. And he was getting a lot of playing time because Michael Conforto is on the IL. So he was in there, and now he's on the IL.
And he came in the next day wanting to know if he was in the lineup.
Yeah.
So he's been tough. He's not mad about it. Obviously, he doesn't want that to happen to anybody.
Right.
And the pitcher didn't want to throw that. That wasn't.
It just happened. And for Jacob Webb, he texted Pilar after the incident to make sure he was okay. And Pilar texted him back and was like, don't worry about it. Now, I will say with Jacob Webb, he has options. So he's been sent down to AAA. One of the reasons that Brian Snitker said he was sent down was he needed to work on his curveball, but also to help him kind of get his mind back right after that incident.
Yeah, it's not like just a normal hit by pitch.
No. And
he's not even the first one to get hit in the face by a ball this season.
No.
Bryce Harper has that honor.
Yep. He also was hit in the nose or in that general area, but did not suffer the same fate as Kevin Pilar. Jonathan India, who is a rookie with the Cincinnati Reds, he'd never played in a major league game before this season, and he's been hit in the head twice this season. So scary stuff going on in the batter's box.
There's another article on The Athletic that talks about substances on the ball and how it's frustrating for the players. They pick it up and it's sticky, but that seems to me like it's the sticky substances tend to help the pitchers control the ball better. So less hit batters versus the downside for the batters is they have better control over the ball. So they can they get a better spin rate. They get better control of a pitch. They can make it break a little more because they have a better grip on it. So the upside, I don't get hit by the ball. The downside, I can't hit the ball.
Right.
So either I get hit by it or I can't hit it. Either way, the wrong thing's getting hit.
Exactly. I looked at 2 separate days. I took a Sunday, April 18th, just pull it out of the sky there, and looked at, because I wanted games where every team was playing, hopefully. So 15 games. And of the 15 games on April 18th, 80% of players were hit in those games. And then I took another date, May 7th, which is a Friday, and 66% of players were hit in 15 games over the MLB.
I feel like there's been a lot more hit by pitches this season compared to, just off the top of my head of watching games. I don't remember every game somebody getting hit by a pitch. And now it seems like every game there's at least one, if not more. I didn't look at the numbers from this season. I did look historically to see 2019 ranks as the top in all of baseball since the 1800s. In 2019, there was 1,984 hit by pitches. Trevor Bauer led the league in that year with hit by pitches with 19, followed by Spencer Turnbull, who will come up a little bit later around the league. He had 16. But that number isn't huge. For a season, it's like you go back to 1891 and Phil Nell hit 54 batters in 1891.
Wow, that's a lot.
To get to like the least hit in the modern era, which is 1900 to now, 1947, they had 300 and some total hit by pitches. So just a fraction of what 2019, 2018 was number 2 in total numbers. And that was 1,922. Cole Hamels led with 19. The pitchers aren't really, the number isn't like, oh, Trevor Bauer just hits a lot of people. He's in line. Actually, number 3 in history is 2001, and that was 1,890. And the league lead for pitchers with most hit batters, Chan-Ho Park from the Dodgers and Jamie Wright from the Brewers, each hit 20 players. And then historically speaking, you have to go back to 2003 to find a batter or a pitcher that would be more modern era pitcher that has more than 20 hit batsmen in a season. And that would be Kerry Wood, who hit 21 in 2003. And then after that, you start seeing the 20s, the 21s. Don Drysdale's in there around 20, and you start seeing players that you really know their names. Guy Waring hit 277 batters in his 14-year career, which started in 1887 and ended in 1901. Second, Chick Frazier hit 219. He started 1896 and played till 1909. When you look at the numbers, there's more overall hit batsmen. No one pitcher, or there's not a group of pitchers who have all elevated and everybody's hitting people 20, 30 times a season. Nobody's going for the Phil Nell record of 54.
Well, this leads to being hit by pitch, and a lot of times they get hit and hopefully they just take their base, and it's not a situation like Kevin Pillar or Corey Seager or Cody Bellinger, who is actually hit by the pitcher. So not hit by a pitch, but the actual pitcher hit him in the leg with, his cleats. And we see where that's at. And that was the second series of the season. So we see these injuries, and that leads us to the IL, where I looked at it earlier this week and I counted, this is across MLB, 233 players are listed as day-to-day, or they're on the IL for, 10 days, some are 60 days. But that's 233 players. That's a lot. And some teams, like the Dodgers, have 14. Or the Mets,
right?
Who have
the Mets 16.
A whole team. Yeah.
Yeah, just about. Well, you figure the roster's 26 players. So that means they've only got 10 of the players that were actually on their active roster. The majority of them all have gone on to the IL. The Padres have 12. The Mariners have 15. And then Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Toronto all have 10 players each on the IL. Cleveland and Boston have the least at 3 each. And then Baltimore and Detroit both have 4 as of now. Obviously, that can all change. And for some teams, like I think we talked about last week, the Diamondbacks, they have some of their top contributors on the IL. So when everybody's there, or most of them are there, they're playing really well. I think we talked about, they went on a long, really good stretch, and then the next stretch was exactly opposite in the losing way.
It's really bad for the Diamondbacks when they have to call, or they purchase the contract of Josh Reddick to come and play.
That's bad for any team. I mean, if you're really Pittsburgh and you had to bring him up, even though you're almost mathematically eliminated already, I wouldn't do it. If I was the GM, I'd be talking to him. Can we just forfeit till we get? Pittsburgh shouldn't have to do that. They got Bry.
Well, the Athletic article that Ken Rosenthal wrote, he said that IL placements are up 15% overall compared to the first month of the 2019 season. And one of the things is if you look at the injured list, you see a lot of pitchers, and we've already seen that, pitchers that have had shoulder surgery, Tommy John surgery. They have, elbow issues, forearm. Some of them do have oblique issues. Right. And then, which he mentions, there's a lot of hamstring issues. AJ Pollock was a good example. He was on the IL, I think, and he got off the IL, played one game, and then it's back on the IL because he wasn't quite ready with the hamstring injury. So quadriceps, that's George Springer, a good example there. He was supposed to be, it's like playing in Toronto. It's a big guy, and he has spent most of his time on the injured list. And then, of course, we talk about our favorite, the oblique injuries. They've all of those have nearly doubled in frequency, and arm and elbow injuries are up by about 19%. So we're seeing this across the board, and you kind of wonder what is going on, other than, like Joey Votto had fractured a finger.
Well, see, things like that, when you fracture a finger, you get it because you could get a finger jammed. There's what's the thing? Justin Upton was out with it, turf toe, which sounds like it shouldn't be a big deal, but the problem with it is it doesn't really describe what it is, and I can't describe what it is, but it's a really tough injury to overcome. So there's things like that can happen just in the course of playing. But some of these injuries, there's just so many. And of course, most people are going to say COVID. Yeah. Because of the shortened season that, and obviously there are a lot of things if we look at COVID as a reason for things. It didn't affect just people's health. It affected because everybody was locked down. And so all of that whole thing that we've just gone through, but are these guys working out? Did they not work out during that time frame? I'm sorry, 60 game season, still you had to play, you had to put everything into it because we played so short and then we took a rest. I would think that'd be a positive. Buster Posey took the whole season off. He's doing great. So maybe those who played who were having problems should have opted out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the answer to everything.
Yeah, because of
in
COVID.
3 years, your FedEx package is going to be delayed, and somebody's going to say COVID. There was no hurricane. True. There was no tornado wherever it came from. It was all perfect weather. Oh, it's delayed because of COVID. We still haven't recovered from all of the restrictions that were put on us by COVID. COVID is not the problem forever. It's not the answer to the question.
No. Well, I wonder too, on the off season with the players, were they, obviously a lot of them, I'm sure they're working out, but to what intensity, what level, or were they like kind of the rest of us, binge watching shows that we didn't have a chance to watch before because we were working or, going to school or, whatever. And now you're in the house and like, oh, well, I'd rather watch, this whole season of this show than go and lift weights or get on the stair climber or whatever.
Right. But most of the pro players, now see, if this was an epidemic in the minors, because they did that, they sat around, they played video games all day and binged watch whatever, they wanted, whatever programs they wanted to watch, then I would get that. But these are guys who have gyms in their homes. They can binge watch any program on Netflix or Hulu or whatever while they're on their treadmill.
So maybe they overdid it because they never clicked the button because it just kept going to the next episode.
Instead of doing their regular, so they overworked themselves because they were binge watching.
There were 8 seasons of this certain show.
Okay, see that
No.
works. That works
Well, and then
better.
you have the guys, right? And then you have the guys that are on the IL that did play video games and broke their finger and
Or their
in
hand.
or their hand because they got upset. But it is something to look. It seems just crazy, when you think about the Mets and what did you say, 16 players? And then the Dodgers with 14. The Padres are right there with them. It really becomes, you have to be really creative in what you do and who you bring up.
Yeah, and that's been the thing. A lot of the depth. This is the thing, like with the Dodgers, we know who's on, how many of these players are missing, that if those players were actually still playing, how incredible it is the Dodgers are doing what they're doing. But it also shows that their depth isn't as what they would want.
Right.
And the same thing, you look at the Mets, you look at the Padres. These are guys, when you look at who's on the list and you see, especially with the Dodgers and the Padres, but when you see it, you say, wow, they're missing these guys and they're still playing this well. What's going to happen when those guys come back?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
and that's even if you eliminate the guys who are out of pocket now because of surgeries, they're out for the season. You look at the White Sox. The White Sox, they have 5 players, I think I saw on there, and 4 of them are out for the season. They have one guy that's on a 10-day. Everybody else, Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, we know they're out. I don't remember who else I saw on there has that, Tommy John, So these are people that are gone. And like I said, with the Dodgers, there's a lot of players that are on the IL that are their top players. Guys who have, and a couple of them have already contributed this year, like Zach McKinstry and Cody Bellinger. Cody's been on there a lot this season. They're making their way back, but imagine if they'd been there all this time, could things have been different? And even if they weren't, knowing that these guys are going to come back into your mix, the rest of the league better be worried because the Dodgers getting back some of their depth. And all of these guys that are on, like I said, how many players have been lost for the season? Like Dustin May, Edwin Rios, who's played well in the past. He's been a solid piece for him. So, and then the Mets. What could the Mets be doing right now? The only thing that they need to do is they either need to put Lindor on the IL or he needs to start hitting. And they'd have a lot more going on. We know why home runs are down, because of the deadened ball has had an effect, and it's not having the effect that MLB wanted. We know all these other pieces as to probably why they're happening. We just don't know why there's all these injuries. And every article that I read through, other than the Rosenthal article, all of them said almost the same thing. More studies need to be done. We have to investigate further as to why this is. So nobody knows. Why is it up? All right. So while we deal with this, and hopefully it's not an all-season thing, but I have a feeling it's going to be, we have something exciting to look into, and that would be that college baseball is going to be announcing the field of 64 for the college playoffs on the road to the World Series. And not a lot of changes in the top 25. Arkansas still sets top at number 1. Actually, the top 5 places are all still the same from last week. On Monday, the 31st, like I said, the field of 64. All of the locations have pretty much been announced, although I did see that some of the regional locations have been changed. For the most part, the regional locations are set up. The teams will be announced on Monday. If you want to see what the projections are right now, go to d1baseball.com. They seem to be one of the authorities on Division I college baseball. Changes in the top 25, Nebraska, Old Dominion, and Maryland all make it in, while UCLA, South Carolina, and Michigan all drop out.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
It looks like the Dodgers are vaccinated and over whatever, we'll just blame it on COVID. Whatever was going on, whatever COVID was happening to them, they've recovered from. And before we get going, and we don't have to talk about him yet, but I have one name for you that is stuck in my head, and that's Nate Jones.
He is awesome. And that's all I'm going to say for now.
Actually, I'll say one more thing. He tweeted, he found out he was coming to the team at 8:30 in the morning, got to San Francisco about 2 hours before game time, and was hanging out in the clubhouse, rubbing elbows with Albert Pujols and Clayton Kershaw.
Another day at the office.
Yep. Life is beautiful. 2 guaranteed Hall of Famers.
Yes.
And 2 of the best guys by all accounts, by everybody that ever meets him in the majors.
Mm.
And he had a pretty good outing as well. Another name to mention, and I'm glad to see that his numbers are working themselves out so that people see just how valuable he's been, even though everybody thought he wasn't. Max Muncy.
Yeah. Max Muncy, he even had a stolen base in the series against Arizona. And when you look at Max Muncy and his frame, and he looks more like a wrestler or a football player. But yeah, he has stolen base in the series against Arizona. Dodgers are looking good. They swept Arizona first game, Madison Bumgarner versus Walker Buehler. And it was a good game. But the two elite pitchers, Madison Bumgarner, who's looked really good since his no-hitter, or not almost a no-hitter, whatever we're going to call it, versus Walker Buehler. But the big story of that first game was Albert Pujols in the starting lineup at first base. He was 1 for 4 with an RBI.
Yeah. Albert wearing number 55. And the Dodgers asked Oral Hershiser before they gave it to him if it was okay. And Oral's like, yeah, no, that's great. I'm fine with that. I was thinking too, Russell Martin would maybe want that number. And I didn't even really ever think about it. I don't know how I missed this, but Russell Martin wore 55 and he was channeling Oral when he pitched.
Yes, when he was on the mound, he got those vibes from the Bulldog. So it worked to his advantage.
So since you brought up Albert Pujols, let's look in Albert's corner and see how he did over his first week as a Dodger. So he played 6 games. He scored 1 run. He had 5 hits and 19 at-bats for a .263 batting average. Hit 1 home run, 5 RBIs. Did I say he got hit by a pitch?
Did now.
And probably one of the big things was he made a fan for life. Talk about that in just a second. He hit in all but 1 game. He had at least 1 hit in every game, except for 1. And he had 2 RBIs in the 3-2 win over the D-backs in that series sweep. How did he get a fan for life? Well, he's in San Francisco, and there's a kid right next to the dugout wearing a black Dodgers hat. Albert comes up by him, and the kid, you could see he's just giddy, fist bumps him. That's enough, right? When you think the kid was over the moon.
Yeah, he was telling everybody sitting next to him, like, look what just happened.
He's looking the other way, and when he turns back around, there's Albert with a bat. He fist bumped him, turned and grabbed one of his bats and handed it to the kid. Fan for life right there.
Oh, yeah. He's going to get jerseys, and I think he probably floated out of the stadium after that. I got this bat. Pujols is my guy. 55 forever.
So sweeping both Arizona and San Francisco. The first one, not as surprising as the second one.
Yes. In the first series with Arizona, Gavin Lux, who has taken to wearing tight pants like Walker Buehler often does in his starts, ripped his pants and still hit a grand slam.
Nice. That he did. That was the one home run he had over the week, and it was a doozy. Gavin Lux contributed a lot. Max Muncy contributed a lot. Just to go back to him briefly, he leads Major League Baseball in wins above replacement. His WAR is top 3.1. Nobody's is better than him right now. So highest of all position players. His on-base percentage still leads the NL with a 460 on base. His 40 walks still lead Major League Baseball. He's been on base 87 times, which ties him with Vladdy Jr. for the MLB lead.
Max Muncy also is tied with Carlos Delgado and Adam LaRoche for the most splash hits by an opposing player. So players who have hit the ball home runs into the water. And he has 3. And that's one of the cool things. He didn't know that was even a thing, that was, people are taking notice of that. But he really enjoys hitting in San Francisco, mainly for that one reason, because you can hit it into the water, which we learned is not part of the ocean. Let's put that debate to bed.
Sure, but the water that's in there comes from the ocean.
That's true. So I think
so it's
go get
oceanic
it out of the ocean.
Water. It's displaced ocean water.
Yes. Okay. So it does work. It still works. Go get it out of the ocean.
Now I noticed, because there was all these issues, I saw a lot of posts about the ocean and that like, I think Max Muncy posted something and it said he was at the ocean. But I noticed when I saw a replay, there is a counter on the side of the stadium that I don't remember how it reads, but it talks about how many balls have been hit into McCovey Cove.
Huh.
And I'd never noticed that before. What I wondered, though, is that total number hit in there by Giants players only, or total number of all players?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I didn't even know that was there either. I'll have to look for that next time.
I happened to catch that.
One of my favorite moments of the San Francisco series, and when you play the Giants, this is the first time this season that the Dodgers have played the Giants. So this is a true baseball rivalry, not the fake, San Diego wants to get in, get something going. Brooklyn Dodgers, the New York Giants. Dodgers moved to LA in 1958. Giants moved to San Francisco 1959. And this is a rivalry that's been going on, and you could feel it. And my favorite part of this first game of the season, who's on the mound? Trevor Bauer never pitched against the Giants, that, from what I understand, that I mean, maybe in his, I don't know. That's what I heard. So that seems weird to me, but never in this situation where it's a big rivalry. The crowd hated him. He absolutely loved it. Tommy Lasorda, I'm sure, was smiling down, because Tommy Lasorda would walk onto the field, even in a jacket that they had given him, and his last name was misspelled. They had Lasodra, like Lasadra, but he was out there and he had his hands up, and they were booing him. The same thing with Trevor Bauer when he was taken out of the game after 126 pitches, which is the most pitches thrown this season so far. And he put his hand up to his ear to hear them boo, put his hands up in triumph, and you could see the guys in the dugout were loving it. And that was just a great moment in this rivalry.
I totally agree with you about the rivalry. You see the Dodgers play the Padres. There's always been, it's more like a big brother, little brother thing when you see the Padres and the Dodgers, that they're trying to show up their big brother. This isn't how it is. There's a difference between the fans, the players. It's just a different feel, and I felt that. And then, Trevor Bauer, it's weird that he, in his time, when because I went back and looked after you said that, he pitched in like 4 games for Arizona. So that's easy that he would have missed out on him then. Then he went to Cleveland and was with Cleveland for quite a few years, from 2013 to 2019, actually. He was in Cleveland. So there's a chance that as the rotation went in interleague play, they may have seen each other twice during that time frame. He may not have been up. His reputation coming in, because it would have given him grief no matter who he played for, but it doubled or tripled. It was infinitely greater because he's wearing Dodger blue. And they were even having a hard time with his samurai sword. And some people even, I saw some tweets, people like, why are you putting your hand up to your ear and acting all arrogant? You threw 126 pitches. Yeah, but he threw 126 pitches more than anybody else has thrown, as you noted, in the season. Not just him, but anybody. And he left the game winning the game.
Had 11 strikeouts.
11 Ks. He threw that last pitch, struck out the Giants player at the plate, and he made up for those extra pitches that caused him problems. He got out of the issue. And I believe you told me when we were tweeting about it that he would throw 200 pitches if they'd let him stay in there.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing because it really made that rivalry. Number one, the Giants are playing well. Both teams are playing well. And Trevor Bauer really took it in. The fans took it in. It really made it a fun game to watch. Now, if the Dodgers had lost, you'd have been upset about it, but you would have seen the competitiveness and all that from this rivalry, and it was fun to watch.
There were a lot of comments online from people who said, I didn't want Trevor Bauer to be a Dodger. I love Trevor Bauer now because of that performance and just taking it up a notch. And also, too, Alex Wood was pitching Friday night, a former Dodger. So add that into the mix, and you've got a really good rivalry. And that's the true rivalry. You know, I think sometimes when I see the Padres, and it's like, ugh, I just can't stand the Padres. But then when the Dodgers are playing the Giants, it's like, oh, I really can't stand the Giants either. Maybe I can tolerate them a little more, but
I think it's because the Padres have made themselves, as far as Dodgers go, more of a hated field because of the way that they're acting. So that was cool. Sweeping the Giants, who came into the series in first place. Padres right there too. Padres in first, Dodgers is in second, but they're all right there tight together.
Very close. I want to mention before I forget, Scott Kazmir, who was a Dodger, was a pitcher, not bad. He started the game on Saturday for the Giants, and it was his first major league appearance since 2016. His last appearance was with the Dodgers. So that was cool to see him back out on the mound. He wasn't going to pitch a long time, but or a lot of innings, but in his start, he had a good start. So good to see him. I liked him, when he was on the Dodgers. So it's good to see him.
And the Dodgers,
back.
this is they still on the hook for some of his salary. So
Right.
they're still paying him like $8 million this year. I think this is the last season. So I'd have to go back and look at his numbers. I knew he was pitching. I didn't see a lot of it. But was he grateful to the Dodgers for paying him $8 million?
I would be. Please pay me $8 million. I will be blessed.
Do you think that's tough playing the team that's paying you like that, but you're still you're trying to make it on there? It's not like he's coming back and he's playing for the Twins or something or the Mariners or whatever. He's coming back against the hated rival of the team
that's paying him salary.
Paying some, yeah.
So yeah, I mean some of it. Yeah. That's a good question. Do you give a pitch here and there? Here's a walk.
One last player before I forget, and before we move on to what's coming up in the Player of the Week. Just one name now. I think he's earned it, and that's Yoshi. Having a lot of issues in Tampa. The Dodgers pick him up because they need some help, infield depth, and they've been playing him a lot. He had a really hard time hitting. Seems to be figuring it out. Had some hits, RBI. I think that he may turn out to be a better pickup than like, okay, we needed somebody till we get everybody back.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a good, he's going to end up being a good addition, like Albert.
I think one of the things I know I have complained, about is Dave Roberts and his runway that he gives players. But you think about this pickup with Yoshi, he was playing in the outfield. He's figuring it out, and really that's what he needs. He can't sit on the bench and figure it out. He's got to be out there. And so that's been a good addition. Yoshi.
So the Dodgers this week head to Houston for 2 games, which will be interesting because it's at Houston. So it's not like when Houston comes to the Dodgers, which will be in August. That'll be a whole different setup. The question is what will the Asterix fans do in regards to the Dodgers? And the Dodgers haven't been, they said their say at the beginning, right after they found out. And since then, they've just been playing baseball.
That's it.
And there were no fans last year. So there was a little bit at the beginning, the whole Joe Kelly incident. He can pitch like crap and everybody still loves him because
of his pout.
Of the pout. In fact, and
he said,
nice swing.
Yeah. He said, I hope a Houston fan throws a beer on me. And if that happens, he's going to throw it back. So people are begging somebody in Houston to throw a beer at Joe Kelly. So this will be it's a 2-game series in Houston, but it'll be a fun one.
Then they get to see the Giants. They'll match up with them at Dodger Stadium, where the Giants always play them tough in LA.
Yep, they do.
So they've got 3 games that'll close out the weekend, and then the Cardinals will come in, and we'll see what's happening. The Cardinals are having some injury issues as well right now, so we'll see if that affects them at all, and how Arenado returns to Dodger Stadium in a different uniform, and that of course is all for next week, or the week after actually. Houston, San Francisco in for this week, and who's your Player of the Week from last week?
This week, when I was looking over the numbers at the games, the 2 series, had Gavin Lux, who didn't mention this, he hit another grand slam into the Dodgers bullpen in San Francisco on the Sunday game. And of course, you had Max Muncy. You had Will Smith, which we didn't mention. Will Smith, huge fan of Albert Pujols, hits a home run in the Arizona series. And who is on base? Albert Pujols. And he gets to bring him in. What a cool moment that was. He said that's going to be something he will always remember. But I went with Julio Urias this week, because he's over 2 games. He pitched 12 2/3 innings. He had gave up 6 hits, 3 runs, had 18 strikeouts, gave up a home run. That was in Sunday's game against San Francisco. 2.21 ERA, .49 WHIP, But in Sunday's game against San Francisco, he was 2 for 3 at the plate with 3 RBIs. So I could not overlook Julio, and so he is my player of the week.
Definitely great outings from him. I looked at that as well, but I went a direction you went last week. And I thought about Julio. I did because he helped himself out. But then I went with Gavin Lux as my player of the week. In 6 games, he went 8 for 21. So that's a 381 batting average. He had 5 RBIs. He had the grand slam and 2 doubles. And I'm assuming this is all going to end soon, so I'm giving him his credit now.
So he got a player of the week from me, player of the week from you. We're giving Gavin the love.
And then he's going to get traded. All right, the Angels played last week. Shohei was great. Time for around the league. Okay, not really. Eventually, but not really. Another lackluster week for the Angels. Other than Shohei's continuing to be what everybody hoped he would be, probably even a little more than some thought he would be. And we'll talk about what he did overall in a minute. They played Cleveland, Minnesota, and Oakland this week. The Minnesota game, as you pointed out last week, was makeup doubleheader on an off day from earlier in the season when they lost 2 games to positive COVID test. So they got those out. One thing that was nice in the doubleheader was Alex Cobb came off the IL and had a pretty decent outing in the win because they split the doubleheader. With Cleveland, they won the first game of the series, lost the next 2. And the thing that stood out to me in that series was not any of the Angels. It was James Karinchak, reliever for the Indians. And this guy, he's like a nervous wreck, it seems like, out on there. He's just amped up. So, a lot of players, they come in, they rub the ball in their hand or they put it in there, they punch their mitt or something. This guy's flipping the ball. He's always flipping the ball. And then when he gets ready to pitch, then he's good. But while he's getting there, he flips the ball 2 or 3 times. He just seems a little manic. But he's got 5 saves on the season and has been pitching well for Cleveland. He's got a 0.47. Well, at the time, he had a 0.47 ERA. By the end of the week, he was at 1.31. So he'd had a couple of good outings, and then one, he kind of fell apart. Over 22 games, he's pitched 20.2 innings. He had 2 saves versus the Angels, got a .629 whip. It was just seeing him. It was interesting to see how he was and just that ball flipping thing. It's somebody that would annoy you if he's on the other team. You would love to have him on your team because that's just one of those little idiosyncrasies. You're like, oh, okay, I'm good with that. With the Twins, like I said, they split the doubleheader. Alex Cobb, great outing, 7-1 win in the first game, which I attribute not to tear down that the Angels can't win 7-1, but they haven't been. And the Twins came from playing the White Sox the night before, flew in, played a 1:00 game here on that last Thursday, and then they won the second game. Then they turned around and went to Cleveland, and they won 6-3 in the second game. And then Oakland came to town for the first time. First matchup between the Angels and the A's. Normally they're almost halfway through their 19 verses by this time. But this year it all got pushed off, kind of like the Dodgers and the Giants. The A's and the Angels met later in the season from when they normally do. They lost the first 2 games and then won the last one. And they were ahead. They had to come back and win the last game. And as it was said, this is in a game they normally would lose this season. they were able to come back and win. And it was thanks to Shohei, who didn't play that day until he came in to pinch hit, and he got a sacrifice fly that helped bring in a tying run, and then the go-ahead came in. First game out, Laureano from the A's stole a home run from Anthony Rendon. That would have helped them maybe overcome them. And it was a blown save in that last game by the most steady member of the bullpen most days, Tony Watson. But Raisel Iglesias came in, did the work, got the win. So like I said, a normal week for them. They're not getting swept, but they're not winning series either. And
their pitchers aren't going, I think on average, it's maybe 5 innings.
Yeah, if they're lucky.
They're lucky.
Unlike the Dodgers pitching staff, which I had meant to bring up, the Dodgers' problems typically are not the starting pitchers. It's an issue that happens with the bullpen. And now that's not even really been an issue for them. But their starters are all looking really good. For the Angels, that's not the case. Shohei he looks good overall in most cases, but he looks much better in the pitching staff number one, he doesn't pitch as often. And number two, compared to what the other pitchers are looking like, there's not really a consistent effort put out by starting. And then the bullpen is, like I said, with the exception of maybe Tony Watson, Raisel Iglesias has been not good most of the year. He has a one here, one there. Cishak, who we got with Watson in the same time frame, he needs to go spend some time by the sea in a shack.
Selling seashells.
All right. So by the seashore, Shohei's week, 6 for 19. That's a .316 batting average, 6 RBIs, 1 double, 1 triple, 2 home runs, 4 walks, 1 intentional walk. He had 2 two-hit games, 1 versus Cleveland, 1 versus Oakland, with a double versus Oakland. So for the season, he's got 14 home runs, 35 RBIs. He's got a 2.37 ERA. If not for Shohei right now, with Trout being out, which leads me to talking about Trout and talking about the team in general. When I have more to say about a reliever from another team, I wonder, the other day, Justin Upton was moved into the leadoff spot, and he had a pretty good day, 2-hit day, because they were changing things up. Fletcher seems to be hitting a little better now. He's starting to pick it back up. He's got like 40 singles, and that puts him like 3rd or 4th in MLB in overall hits. And people were upset about Albert Pujols, or they were happy when he left. More people were happy when he left than were upset. I think that for baseball's sake, for the Angels' sake, for Mike Trout's sake, we need to boycott Artie and, I don't know, change.org or whatever. We need a new owner in Anaheim. All he did was come in and lower the price of beer. Everybody loved him because people like beer. And a lower price, you go to the game, people like hot dog, beer, and peanuts, usually. Not everybody, but that's a big thing when you look at a game. What somebody's going to throw beer on. So that's all he did. He's adverse to good pitching. It's time to let him go. And it made me think too, you got rid of Albert Pujols. I know he's in the last year of his contract, but you still have Justin Upton, who has this year and next year in his contract. So he's a left fielder. You got players in the minors you could bring up to play left field. You can put Taylor Ward in left field. Why haven't you released him? You're going to have to pay you can't trade him because he has a full no trade clause, but maybe you talk to him and get him to waive it to go to a contender. I like Justin Upton, but he's not been great either. He's been, if you're going to say Albert Pujols was bad, Justin Upton is just as bad. He's not playing up to the level that you signed him to play up to. And what happens when Trout starts falling off? Are they going to be hollering about that? And Shohei, if he continues to play the way he is, will overtake Trout as the team's best player and is more valuable overall because you can use him in two places. So I think the way to get people together to be anti-Artie is for them to trade Mike Trout. And Mike Trout deserves to go play somewhere. If he never made it, Mike Trout wouldn't be the only great player to never make it to a World Series. Ernie Banks played for the Cubs his whole career and never played in the playoffs, period. And the sad part is Mike Trout has more playoff opportunities than Ernie Banks did. Trade him somewhere where it doesn't, for where the Angels fans, people aren't saying he's being wasted in Anaheim. If we could get him traded, people would see that Artie Moreno is a terrible owner. Didn't we already deal with this in Southern California with a guy named Frank McCourt? And Frank McCourt's teams, towards the end of his tenure, started winning the National League West. That the trend of 8 consecutive started under Frank McCourt's regime. So it's time to get rid of Artie Moreno. And if it takes Mike Trout being traded, I personally would rather be able to turn on a game, whether he's in like two of the places he was always rumored to go, New York for the Yankees or Philadelphia because it's closer to his home there, and turn on a game and see him playing in New York or Philadelphia or wherever and get to watch him just for the joy of it, not watching him with the agony of knowing that I'm going to watch this team lose again, and more pressure on him to do the things that need to be done to get this team to the playoffs. He's really going to have to carry them. Shohei will help now. Fletcher will help. I haven't seen anything out of Rendon yet, really. For as great as we know he is, he's not showing it. It's like another Albert Pujols signing, if you want to say that. He was great in Washington. He's not great here. And that's really all I got to say about that. Artie Moreno's like a box of chocolates, except you know what you're getting. You're getting all melty and nasty chocolates, been out in the road, run over by a car.
Maybe you could join forces with Rockies fans and push their ownership out, push Angels ownership out, and see a change in both places. And it could be for the good for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, if that would work out like that, honestly, we could push out their ownership, talk Artie into buying the Rockies, because I really don't care what ends up with the Rockies.
Right.
But they'd get cheaper beer probably, so that's at least an up point. I would think they'd already get it. They play in Coors Field, of all places.
It should be free, right?
Right, something. Shouldn't be, I don't know what it costs up there. I've never been.
I've been, but I don't drink. So
right, you don't
know.
drink beer, so
I don't pay
only the
attention to
hard
that.
stuff for you.
That's it.
So let's talk about the fact that the Angels are going to be playing all division rivals this week. They've got the Rangers coming in for 2, and then they mosey on up to Oakland. They do that swap like always happens every year. The Angels will go to Oakland to play the A's, and the Giants will come down to play the Dodgers, or vice versa, which is what happened last week.
Yeah.
The Dodgers were playing in San Francisco. The A's were playing down here. And that's another thing. I heard somebody say something about a rivalry. There's no rivalry between the A's and the Angels.
No.
The Angels have no rivals. The Dodgers aren't even a rival. The only reason that there's maybe a little rivalry is because they're geographically close.
Yes.
And people will go, they hate the Angels or they hate the Dodgers because whatever. That's like,
well, and they have a freeway, so you can
they're
be
both
clever.
off of the same freeway.
And you
They're
can
both
say,
off of the I-5.
yeah,
As you would say in other parts. Here it's just the 5. So it took me a while of digging, because I could have just said, okay, my weekly, I'm just going to do this for now. Until Trout's back, Shohei's always the player of the week. And then once Trout's back, then we'll just rotate between the two, whoever had the better week.
right.
But I didn't want to do that. And eventually I'm going to get over my animus towards the Angels and this whole Albert Pujols thing.
Yeah.
And the way that other things are playing. I was excited about Joe Madden. I'm not buying into the Joe Madden way anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Joe Madden has not turned out to what we thought. And maybe, after he won the World Series with the Cubs, he probably should have just said, I'm out and left.
Right.
Managing.
Dropped the mic and walked away.
Yeah, because they need somebody who's more, not as mellow.
Right. The only Zen master coach that I ever saw where it worked was Phil Jackson and the Lakers and the Bulls, but
And
really
the Bulls,
with the Lakers.
yeah.
He was the Zen master. It worked.
Yeah.
Joe Madden, he came to the Angels because the Angels was kind of like his team. It's like going back to the town you grew up in. Recently, I had gotten a haircut and my barber told me that he was able to buy the house he grew up in. He went to the house. There's no for sale signs or anything up. He left him a letter and the people said, we were thinking about selling our house. So yeah, make us an offer and we'll consider it. And it worked out. That was what Joe Madden did. But what do they say? You can't go home again? Since I want to make sure all players get their due when their time comes and not just take the easy way out, Shohei's not this week's Player of the Week. He could be. But I try to spread it out. And then also that would mean more players get the certificates that when they see them, they'll feel honored that they got something. And it's not just Shohei every week getting something and nobody else does. They lose interest, but they might be interested.
He's wallpapering his locker.
So this week's Player of the Week for you?
I felt the same. I was like, well, it's got to be Shohei. But I went with Jose Iglesias. He was 9 for 23, so 391 batting average, had 5 RBIs, 1 home run, but he was consistent at the plate, and I went with Jose.
I did too.
Hey!
Now, I thought he had 2 home runs with the 5 RBIs.
Oh, maybe he did. I might have. I went back because I missed one of the games that he was in, so I had to go back. So it's very possible that he did have 2 home runs, and I'm sure you are correct.
Yeah, he had a double, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and did not ground into any double plays. That's been like, remember last week I told you there were players that just popped in my head? Stats that I've been looking at recently have been the GDPs, the ground into double play. How many did they do that? Did they not? That and strikeouts I've been looking at a lot, but mostly the ground into a double play because you could strike out and the next guy coming up unless you end the inning, but not grounding into double plays. That's a big inning killer right there. And he didn't ground any of them. And so, yeah, Jose Iglesias, fielding-wise, he leads the team in errors overall, but he had a pretty decent week. But he's got double the next person, which is Suzuki. Kurt Suzuki, the catcher, has 5. He has 10 on the season. But he does play a wide range, and he makes some great plays. So, yep, that's our guy. He will be getting the certificate and a sticker and be in the running for an SRBB t-shirt. Normally, Around the League is a hodgepodge of information from around the league. Rarely do we have 2 subjects that we could probably do a whole segment about. And if it hadn't been for the injuries overall and all the hits batsmen this season, one of these probably could have moved up, or both of them could have moved up. But before we get to that, the MLB celebrated a milestone this last week when Jose Godoy became the 20,000th player to play in the Major League. And he got a visit via scoreboard, probably pre-recorded, from Ken Jennings, master Jeopardy champion and sometime host until Aaron Rodgers takes over, I guess, saying the 20,000th Major League player, and then the answer is, who is Jose Godoy? And then I saw a nice little tweet somewhere, I think it was, or a story that said, imagine if you were the 19,999th player or 20,001. Nobody cares because you're not the 20,000th. 20,000th. I like 20,000th better, though.
I kind of do, too.
Anyway, so they celebrated that in the whole time of professional baseball, going back to the very first major league team, the Cincinnati Reds. Till now, 20,000. Actually, 20,001 are out there, and probably by next week it'll be more. But congrats to Jose Godoy of the Seattle Mariners to making it to the big leagues. He is the cousin Oliver. Remember him from the Brady Bunch?
Yes.
He's getting everybody in so they can be in the silent movie. Because of him.
That's right.
All of the MLB players get to go be in the silent movie like the Brady Bunch. Okay, so last week, a guy we've talked about quite a few times on this show, he's cooled off a little bit, but he's still doing quite well. Yermin Mercedes, the Yerminator, as I've seen him called, in a blowout game versus the Twins on a 3-0 pitch, hit one out of the park.
The pitch was 47 miles per hour. I want to get that in because it's important.
Thrown by Twins catcher, normally, Williams Astudillo, who I've personally seen pitch when they played the Twins, the Angels and the Twins played in Anaheim, the one game that I got to see in that series. And Yermin Mercedes went downtown.
And you'd think it's a home run. They're already winning. What's the big deal? But when Tony La Russa is your manager, it's a big deal. Because apparently Yermin Mercedes went off script, did not pay attention to the signs, and just hit it.
Do you think when he came back in the dugout, Tony La Russa said to Yermin, "You're mean," for running up the score?
No.
Now, I think that a lot of people don't realize what the bigger issue was for Tony. It wasn't so much that he hit the home run, although that too, it's like piling on. But I got questions to ask about that here in a little bit. What Tony's issue was is that he blew off the sign. The sign was to take at 3-0, which isn't an unusual sign even for the best hitters. They may just say, take this pitch, see what happens. If it's a strike, then we're back into normal mode. But if not, take the walk. And Yermin blew it off and basically said, I'm just being me. And Tim Anderson came out afterwards and said, yeah, you be you. In fact, most of his teammates and people around the league, Trevor Bauer, came out and said something about, you know, if it's a blowout and you hit a home run off of me, I don't care. Celebrate. Unwritten rules are irrelevant to me. But once again, that doesn't mean that the bigger issue was you didn't read and follow the sign that was given.
Well, and Tony La Russa said he made a mistake. There will be a consequence he has to endure here within our family, which kind of reminds me of kind of the mob. Like he's
Right.
gonna put, something in his locker. Horse head. I don't know.
Horse head. He's going to be sleeping with the fishes.
That's right. Well, and then Rocco Baldelli was asked about the situation, and he said, "We got the feeling," and this is quoting, "we got the feeling across the dugout that Tony and I think some people in the dugout were not pleased with what was going on. The message did get to me, and I appreciate that message." So it was Rocco and Tony who didn't like what was going on. No one else.
But do you think that if Tony doesn't make such a big deal about it, that Rocco cares that much?
Probably not.
Do you think that if it doesn't come out the way it is, does Yermin get thrown at or thrown behind the next day?
Yeah, probably not. Because it's like, okay, we were losing. It was 15-4. He hit a home run, so it's 16-4. It was late. We're not going to, it's over and done with. We play the next game. But then the next game, Yermin does get thrown at. And Tony La Russa said, that's fine. He was good with it.
So when he speaks about family, he's talking about the MLB family? Not within the team, just we'll deal with it in our dugout or in our clubhouse, that he didn't read the sign. And if you're going to be, I saw a lot of people talking about disrespecting the game is what Tony's thing was. There were a few people that said, I agree with Tony. There were a lot more who said, you need to leave baseball. And it made me think, because a few days later, who did I send you? I sent you somebody. Was it the Giants beating the Reds 19-4?
Yes.
The Braves won 20-1.
Yes, versus Pirates.
And they're saying you're disrespecting the game. But if you're disrespecting the game, why do you have Williams Astudillo throwing batting practice?
Exactly. And he's done, like you said, you've seen him in person. He was throwing the same stuff. I mean, it didn't even register on the radar. It was so slow. And Alex Wood, he said, if there's a position player pitching in a big league game, all rules, and he put rules in quotes, are out the window, in my honest opinion. Plus, do y'all realize how hard that is to launch a 47 mile per hour pitch, 400 feet? Give the people what they want.
And there's another good point. Mostly the home runs, especially the monster home runs that you see, are hit not because the guy's that strong, but the ball does a lot of the work. When it comes in, if somebody throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and you get hold of it enough to put, it's going to go farther than if you hit the 94-mile-an-hour fastball.
Well, and the next game, Minnesota Twins pitcher Tyler Duffy did throw behind Yermin Mercedes as, a warning, or we know what you did. And he has been suspended for 3 games. And he also received an undisclosed fine in connection to the incident. I think for the Chicago White Sox, the bigger issue here is not that Yermin blew off the sign. It's the fact that you have a manager who shouldn't be managing. He should have never been hired in the first place. He's a Hall of Famer. He was with the Cardinals. He's been there. He's done that. And he didn't need to do it again. We already know he didn't even know some of the rules of the game with the ghost runner.
Right, he didn't know about the ghost runner.
So he's so out of touch.
The most casual fan knows
he's
that.
Out of touch. And then in the clubhouse, you have Tim Anderson, who's like, yeah, you be you. Lance Lynn came out and said, kind of the same thing on the same vein as Trevor Bauer and Alex Wood. and if you've got the players versus the manager, and in that exchange, somebody asked Tony La Russa about the Lance Lynn comment, and he said, "Well, he has a locker, and I have an office." Okay, what does that mean?
Okay, but a lot of people have offices. Go down to your doctor's office. Your doctor has an office. Does that make him a better judge of what's going on than Lance Lynn, who's right there in the middle of the game? I expect more from Tony La Russa. I get the old school approach. But if we're talking about missing the sign, you pull him aside, you say, and here's a guy who had never played in the majors until this season.
Right.
He was almost out of baseball. He comes up. He is, his first few at bats we saw versus the Angels, he was 8 for 8?
Yes. Yeah.
And 8 for 9, and he was leading the league, leading all of baseball in average for quite a while. He's still at the top of the numbers overall. He's excited to be there. And I heard somebody on one of the MLB radio programs mention that a lot of these players have number incentivized clauses in their contract. So, if you hit this many numbers, or there's guys that had, if I'm the MVP of the league, I get a bonus. If I do this, I get a bonus. It used to be back in the old days, they would set people down 2 or 3 starts, like pitchers, that if they made 30 starts. So they would purposely have them miss a couple of starts so they wouldn't make the number and they wouldn't have to pay the bonus. And then, 2, is it about disrespecting the game to run up the score? When 2 examples happen in the same time frame. The Braves had 2 grand slams in that game. Once you're up by a certain number of points, shouldn't you just stop? Don't stand up there with your bat on your shoulder and not swing at anything if you're going to disrespect the game. Isn't that just as disrespectful, or it's unsportsmanlike?
Yes.
His problem was that he blew off the sign, and it became all about running up the score. And he made it worse by talking in public instead of calling him in after the game and said, "Hey, we don't blow off signs." It's like in Major League. We wear caps and sleeves at this level. Don't, there's what you did in the minors you don't do here. Every level expects a little bit more. It's, there used to be a time that when you left the clubhouse, when you were on the road, you wore a suit and tie for traveling. There's a lot of those rules. It's got to change as time goes. And Tony La Russa doesn't get it. He should have just stayed with the Angels or with some other team in an advisory, out of the way, nobody remembers you're even here capacity. But don't air your dirty laundry about something, especially something as insignificant as this.
Yeah.
And then say, I'm okay with them throwing at him.
Yeah, your own.
Which, if he had been hit, what if he had gotten hit in the head or the face? Like, now they were trying to throw at him, so the guy threw behind him because, just to let you know, I can get you whenever I want to get you, kind of thing, I guess.
Right.
It's like having the sniper. You don't know where I'm at, but I always know where you are. It's a horror movie.
The best part of this is what your mean Mercedes said. I'm going to play like that. I'm your mean. I can't be another person because if I change it, everything's going to change. We're just having fun. It's baseball. That's it.
Right. And if you notice, the teams and the players who are just having fun playing baseball, especially this season, seem to be doing the best.
It'll be interesting to see going forward with the White Sox how this goes down, because I can totally see a mutiny is afoot for.
Well, people were saying, well, why would you you have issues with Tony La Russa, look at what the team's doing. Well, guess what? Somebody who doesn't even know baseball can show up and manage this team as good as they are. The players are going to go out there and make it happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
They could do a promotion with the White Sox. I mean, they were responsible for disco demolition back in the 70s. They could have manager of the day, call out a ticket number, and maybe the rule is you got to be over 18, so that way you're 16 and over can manage the team. And they come down, they put them in a uniform that they get to keep, and they manage the team. They actually go on the field, change the pitcher out. You got the other professionals that are there. You got a pitching coach who could say, yeah, I think it's time we should take him out.
Bench coach.
Or the catcher. Yeah, you got those guys. And we don't need Tony La Russa. We'll just do manager of the day just to say you're an implementer. You're not really managing, especially with all the numbers and stuff that they have. Mm-hmm. Most of the lineups are done by the front office.
Right.
I think call the White Sox. Let's see if we can get this going. A couple of things that happened in response to this as well. One for sure, Kevin Cash hit one of his players, and I don't remember which one, hit a home run off of a position player pitching, and instead of being mad at him, he high-fived him. Outward displays kind of in La Russa's face. He said, if you really wanted to punish your mean Mercedes, just make him take a ride with La Russa after the game. La Russa will take you home. And then along that line about things coming out, this one I kind of agreed with. Dave Martinez, manager of the Washington Nationals, let everybody know that Juan Soto was forced to apologize to his team, but not because he didn't read the sign or ignored the sign. It's because this is a good unwritten rule. Always run out the play if you're at bat.
Don't stand there.
And look at it. He's a spectator. He was like the people in the stands. Yeah. We would have thought he was if he put a mask on. He would have looked like the people in the stands. Pop up. He stands there. He's looking at it with everybody else. Instead of running to first, the catcher catches the ball, or actually goes to catch it, drops it, throws to first base, and gets him out because he wasn't running it out. And they forced him to apologize to his team for being a bad teammate.
Yep. And
Juan Soto realized.
Yeah. And now in the other vein, in a call when the Nats were playing the Cubs, Trey Turner was called out because they said he wasn't running in the base. He was inside the line. And
he was inside the base path.
In the path. When you look at it, it was a really bad call. Like, what were you looking at? But so
you could see. Wait, you know what I heard? I heard in my head when I was watching the replay was McEnroe. Oh. The chalk flew up. It was in.
That's right.
But the whole thing of the chalk flew up. He's on the base line.
Yes, he was right there, and they called him out. Davey Martinez comes out. He is so mad. He takes the first base out of the ground, and he got thrown out because he went into the field of play. He went onto the field. He didn't stay in his lane. But then he was like, forget it. I don't care.
He, too, was in the base
He was. He goes and steps on first base, and then he pulls it out of the ground and tosses it. And so there's an example of, if you're going to compare managers, of somebody that says, listen, you need to apologize to your team because you got out. I don't know what you were doing. You were watching you were a spectator. But then on the other hand, he stands up for his player because he wasn't out but he was ballistic like crazy.
Oh yeah, no, and I couldn't stop watching.
Yeah.
It. When you told me about it, I was just like, and I just sat there and it would start, it just like on a loop and it would just start playing again. And next thing I know, I'm like 4 or 5 minutes in and I'm like, how many times have I seen
Like
this?
10 times.
This is awesome. Play it again. I mean, just because you don't see that kind of fire anymore. Earl Weaver set up in his grave and because I'm sure, because he was so small, his coffin probably was much bigger. He had room to move around, and he was applauding.
Yeah, I could see Tommy Lasorda
Martinez.
probably even,
Tommy Lasorda he would have been another one. There's those managers, the fiery managers, especially the fiery managers of the 70s,
Yes.
would have loved that whole play, and that was awesome. All right, other awesome things usually to happen in baseball are no-hitters. And we had, so far this season, we've had quite a few. We had Joe Musgrove with the first one with the Padres. That was the very first no-hitter in Padres history versus the Rangers. And then we had like Carlos Rodon and his no-hitter versus the Indians. So we've got a Padre and a White Sox. Then we had John Means of the Orioles, who I've been gushing about so far this season, wishing that had been the Orioles pitcher we got on the Angels. And like I said, he no-hit the Mariners. So wait, that's what, 3 now that I've mentioned? This early in the season?
Crazy.
And then the Reds, Wade Miley, powered by his temporary Hulk tattoo, courtesy of his son. He's on the Reds, no-hit interstate rival, the Cleveland Indians. Wait, that sounds familiar too. And then in the last week, Corey Kluber and a guy named Spencer Turnbull from the Tigers, he did it the first one in the week versus the Mariners.
Yes.
Now he's a Tiger. He did it versus the Mariners. I feel, is it deja vu? Wait. Corey Kluber, who has been pitching back to his form, goes to pitch against his old team that he only pitched 1 innings worth of last year at the Grill. He no-hits. Of course, he's with the Yankees now. No hits. The Rangers. I'm going to have to get this checked out. I got to call my doctor because I feel like I got an echo. Or maybe I'm confused or something. Because I've seen 6 different teams throw no-hitters, but I only see 3 teams that have been no-hit. The Mariners, the Indians, and the easy one, this one I kind of expect, the Rangers.
It's crazy. And when I heard about Kluber's no-hitter, I said to Planet Head, I said, well, so much for the deadened ball that was supposed to help put it in play, put the ball in play, and now we have 6 no-hitters, 7 if you count Madison Bumgarner's.
I do.
So 7, and it's only May, and now it's like, all right, ho-hum,
The record in modern era for a season is 7. 7 in a whole season.
Right.
In the 1800s, there was 1 year that there was 8 in a whole season. But in the modern era, 7. If you play the we're on pace for game, we're on pace for about 21 no-hitters this season.
That's unreal.
Now, will it all even out? some people say, well, the pitchers are still ahead of the batters. And in the past, I would buy into that. But I can't now because the batters, I guess the batters are behind in the sense that the pitchers are pitching less against a batter's weakness, which is what all of the numbers tell them, and they're pitching more to their own strengths, which is turning out to be better. Plus, Major League Baseball isn't enforcing the foreign substance rule, and I'm sure Eduardo Perez is upset about that.
I'm sure too. It takes everything away from him. He probably can't even carry the rule book around.
That's the only rule he knows. He memorized that rule just for that one moment.
The pitchers, the strikeout rate is on the rise in baseball. We all know it. We all see it. Obviously, look at all these no-hitters.
But that's the problem is the pitchers continue to get better, or they continue to find ways to fine-tune their pitching in their game. The batters are still trying to hit everything out of the park.
Yeah, there hasn't been a reverse in, playing the small ball, a single, depending on, a single gets a run. We just need a single. We just need this. And we're not seeing that. Sometimes we do.
Walk is as good as a hit. I always remember them yelling that in Little League.
Yeah.
Because all you want to do is hit. Well, I get that these guys want to hit, but Albert Pujols the other day got an RBI off of a walk. And he's not the only one that's had that, but he's just the first person that popped in my head with that. So you're still going to get stats out of these things, and you're helping your team. So the problem is, the biggest problem with all this and the no-hitters is that, yes, the deadened ball isn't doing what they said they were going to do because the batters aren't adjusting. They continue to try to hit, and I will give them this. They're not seeing as many fastballs. And what are you going to see hit out of the park more often than not is going to be probably a fastball or a hard slider. Other pitchers go out, but those are the main two that usually you see everybody hit out. And that's just not going to happen. So we're getting all these. Don Mattingly said baseball is basically unwatchable. Whether he said that or he was saying a friend of his told him that, a former major leaguer. And I don't agree with that. There's still things that happen. And if you're willing to go looking around at other games, especially when you see like when Turnbull's no-hitter came up, I went and tuned into it because you used to not see no-hitters every day.
Now you kind of
And I've seen one in person that was unimpressive.
Yeah. And no-hitters obviously for a pitcher, it's that, a major feat. You no-hit the team. But for fans, unless it's your team, and even if it is your team, it's not exciting. I mean, other than if it's your team that's got the no-hitter, you're like, okay, come on, catch that ball, or don't let that get through, kind of thing. But it's not as exciting as your mean Mercedes home run,
unless it's somebody like Nolan Ryan.
Right. Yeah, he's in a class
and
by
the reason I say that is because he had thrown so many of them. Whenever he went to the Rangers, I would always get, I've made no bones about this. I've been a Nolan Ryan fan for most of my life, his career, especially when he came to the Angels. At a game, I would buy the series all 3 games of every Rangers Angels series, because it got where it was harder and harder to maintain what was happening in rotation, especially when players get hurt and stuff like that. Because before, I would do that, and then one time it was thrown off, and he pitched the day before, the day after I had tickets for. So I would just buy all of them, and then I went to the game. In this one particular game, it was the bottom of the 8th inning, and he had a no-hitter going. And everybody knew we were seeing more history. All of them are history, but him specifically. And Chili Davis came up, and by then the crowd is up cheering for Nolan. Chili Davis comes up and gets a single in the bottom of the 8th, and the crowd at Angel Stadium booed Chili Davis. And like I said, I saw a no-hitter at Angel Stadium, a guy named Joe Crowley back in September of 1986 threw a no-hitter against the Angels. And honestly, it wasn't until the end of the game, we were all standing there getting up to leave, and people were asking each other, wait, did we just see a no-hitter? That's how we couldn't really, it was really uninspiring. Cool for him that he got a no-hitter, but it just didn't feel like it. Not that, you really know what one's going to feel like till it's upon you. But, so yeah, I think that's lost some of its luster. And while I don't think that baseball is unwatchable, except for extra innings when they put the guy on second, what I like to see is to see the guy on second get thrown out early on, and then them still win without that being the winning run.
Right.
So we'll roll around the rest of the league, kind of take a look at some things. Max Scherzer, whose name's been coming up a lot lately in trade rumors, especially with teams that are looking like contenders. It's a little early for this, but like the Giants, the Tampa Bay Rays, who keep trading everybody. Willie Adames traded to Milwaukee.
Yeah, for 2 relievers. And the thing about Willie Adames is he really is he wasn't great. He's having a tough year so far, tough season. But it's his presence in the clubhouse. He is the cheerleader. I mean, if you watched him in the World Series last year, he was the one outside the dugout. He was the cheerleader. He was the pep squad.
Right.
And so they missed that, and now he is a Brewer. So
of course, doesn't look like the Rays, after he was gone, the Rays they're like on a 10-game win streak or something like that. 10 straight, I think I heard. So
I think it's 11, something.
Yeah, somewhere in there, at least 10, maybe 11 now. Max Scherzer not only being in trade talks with a lot of different teams, except for like the Dodgers or the Padres, who have solid pitching staffs already.
Yeah.
He also had a career moment where he passed Hall of Famer, former Tiger and Philly for the most of his career, Jim Bunning, also a Dodger at one time, on the strikeout list. He hit 19th place now, 2,856 strikeouts. Or 2,857 strikeouts for Scherzer, because Jim Bunning had 2,856.
It's weird to hear Scherzer's name, to me, mentioned in trade talks. I know it's early, and we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I've seen lots of things. Now, to me, like, this makes more sense. Trevor Story as a rental somewhere. That makes sense to me because he's on a team that has no possibility of making it to the playoffs or, any kind of postseason. And that makes sense. But Scherzer, not a national, I don't.
Well, but couldn't we have said that about Scherzer? Verlander? Not a Tiger?
true. Yeah, that's true. There's always surprises when you hear these things.
I guess
they're just supposed to be in this team, and that's where they are. But it's the same thing. I guess we go back with, even with Albert Pujols. Mention him again.
Not a Cardinal.
He was not a Cardinal. And he's an Angel. Okay, and he's not an Angel. He's a Dodger.
Right.
So yeah. I want to mention, because we mentioned the no-hitters, in the Spencer Turnbull no-hitter versus the Mariners, is it really a no-hitter if Angel Hernandez is the home plate umpire?
I see your point there. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know, because maybe it's more of a no-hitter because Turnbull figured out the Angel Hernandez zone
formula. Yeah.
And I think that for Angel Hernandez, it changes every inning, sometimes every batter. It was right down the middle, and it was a strike for the last guy, but for this guy, it's a ball. He figured it out. He worked around it.
Very possible. I'd have to go back. It'd be kind of interesting. Go back and watch that again, and just to see. But Corey Kluber and Spencer Turnbull were the AL co-players of the week. I wanted to mention that, and the Angel Hernandez, because there's a great Twitter feed, and it's all about the balls and strikes. And I have to go back and look at that and see.
They have umpire report cards, and I don't remember what. I'd have to look it up too, and I feel bad that we can't properly acknowledge this. But it's a really cool Twitter feed, and they do that. They put up how many calls did they miss, but to make it fair, what were the consistencies of the calls? So even though that they may have a bad strike zone, are they consistent with it? So that it doesn't matter who's up. They're always calling that inside strike that's 2 inches off of the plate a strike, regardless.
It is Umpire Scorecards, and their Twitter handle is @UmpScorecards. So if you get a chance, they have reports posted for every game, and it's really it's a cool Twitter feed that we follow, and a lot of people follow.
Right. It's a nice way to look at who's doing what, and to look at a game, especially if you feel like there was bad calls in that game. The NL Player of the Week was the Braves' Austin Riley. And unlike Corey Kluber, who this is his 6th Player of the Week award, and his 2nd of the season, Spencer Turnbull has only got 1, as does Austin Riley, is his 1st as well. 6 home runs, 11 RBIs, and 9 runs. They had 4 wins during the week, and he contributed mightily to all of that. To a team that is still having some issues, but seems to be digging themselves out of their hole. They brought a metal ladder down into the hole with them to climb out of, instead of a wood one that would be set fire to.
Yes, which is that usually is the mistake. He had the 2nd most RBIs, behind 11, behind Fernando Tatis Jr. He batted .462 with the Major League Best 1.308 slugging percentage and 1.772 OPS. And in that rout of the Pittsburgh Pirates, he hit 2 of the home runs. They had 7.
And in that rout, they had 2 grand slams.
Yes.
Of the 7 home runs, 2 of them were grand slams. And then, since we're talking Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr. Leads the league with 15 home runs so far. He and Shohei seem to be going back and forth with that. Shohei at 14. But the Braves, one of the Braves' biggest issues is pitching. So hopefully for them, they can get it all put back together. I think, see, that's the one thing when you were talking about Max Scherzer and the trading of, they're a team in a division that they're still in things.
Right.
The National League East, you got guys who were just, for a lot of it, everybody was in and around 500. They may be the last place team, but they're playing. They've got firepower. They've got good pitching. Things are coming back. And speaking of going back, and the Nationals, Kyle Schwarber and John Lester traveled with the Nationals to Chicago, played the Cubs. Both got great ovations. Didn't Chris Bryant leave a little gift for Kyle Schwarber?
Yeah, he left some candy out in, I think, left field because Schwarber eats Twix. I guess that's his favorite, and he would eat some Twix out in the outfield. So when he ran out there to play, Chris Bryant had been there and sprinkled some candy out there in the outfield. Yeah, they got both really good warm receptions from the Cubs fans. Probably someone who was a Cub. He had been in the minors in AAA. And with everything going on with the Mets, the Cubs traded Cameron Maybin. It's a name you've probably heard. He's played for a lot of different teams. He's been around.
Most recently, like the Tigers. He was with the Angels for a little while. He was with the Asterix.
Yep. He was traded from the Cubs to the Mets for the grand sum of $1. $1. That's it. And he, so far in the last 7 games, he's 0 for 19 with 11 strikeouts. And Steve Cohen has tweeted out, "Who wants to suit up?" So if you have always dreamed of being a major league player, you may be able to be a New York Met.
Now, as you said that about maybe, number one, I'm going to Citi Field right now. Number two, because if they play me, don't they got to pay me the league minimum?
Yes,
of like,
it's like $575.
What, 380, 500? Oh, yeah, it's 575. That's
Yeah.
right. The 380 came up because prorated.
Yeah.
That's what the Dodgers are playing Albert for this season.
Right.
But doesn't this, and you know this well, doesn't this sound like a Johnny Lingo situation?
Yeah, it does.
I don't think if you and you said it when it happened, when you tweeted me or texted me about it. How do you think Cameron Maybin feels about being traded for $1?
Right.
And if you're not familiar with Johnny Lingo, it's about people and their self-worth and what people see and how you treat them. And the deal was, the man, they lived on an island. Johnny Lingo is like a trader. Some sort of.
And he is like the most eligible bachelor of this island.
And he comes and he'll either pick up supplies, but he'll do trading for things he's picked up elsewhere. And the deal was that the father of his daughter, he's trying to get his daughter married.
Yes.
And the deal is there is the what is that? A dowry? Is that what that?
Yeah, I think
something like that. But it's a financial transaction, really.
It's
to
that,
sell off your child, your daughter,
but it's also for the women. Well, it's cows, so I'm a 7-cow wife, or I'm a 5-cow wife. If you're like 1 or 2, probably not announcing that.
The problem is the dad can't get any cows for her because she's a difficult, headstrong woman, which in any of these types of deals, that's always not a good thing.
Right.
Because in that situation, they're looking for submissive wives or respecting your husband or whatever. And so the father is hoping he's not even getting one. He can't even get a diseased cow.
A mad cow.
For his daughter. Yeah, there's not even, the cows would be mad that the cow would take it as a slight that he got traded for the daughter. That's how bad it was.
Right.
And then Johnny Lingo shows up and he offers 8 cows, right? It was 8.
8 cows that had never been offered before.
They're like, the father's like, I better do this before whatever happened to him, whatever this delusion he's under, I need to take advantage of it now. And
yes,
when Johnny, and what was her name again?
Mahana,
when they come back, or they come back to the family area in the village, she's unrecognizable.
Yeah, she's beautiful. And her father had called her, Mohana, you ugly. Get down from that tree.
Right.
But then she marries Johnny Lingo and they come back and she's gorgeous.
She's the greatest, the best looking. Yeah. And it's because he paid 8 cows for her. She felt like an 8 cow wife.
Yeah.
And does Cameron Maybin playing like a dollar player?
Yeah, 0 for 19, 11 strikeouts.
So maybe I'm not saying they need to give him $20 million a year.
No.
But they could have traded him for something else to make him feel like there was equal worth.
You could have at least said for cash or a player to be named later.
Yeah, the details didn't need to come out on that.
No.
Because that happens all the time. Now he's in trading places.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I was, Cameron Maybin, he's been around. He's a good player. Obviously not right now. He's struggling, but he's been, he's decent. And the Mets needed somebody. And now you've got the owner of the Mets tweeting out, come to Citi Field. We got open tryouts. So they could be the bad news bears of the MLB. That would be quite the story. Drinking beer in the dugout, could be good. Of course, they were kids, so that made it.
Oh, it was a little more shocking in Bad News Bears because they were all minors. But
right.
Still, it would be shocking if you looked in the dugout and guys were doing shots and drinking beer and having like maybe they could decorate their dugout as like a tiki bar. Mai Tais and beach chairs.
Why not?
Well, that's what some of the teams that are getting beat should be doing. A couple other players that I wanted to mention, both of them Orioles. John Means, he leads the pitchers' WAR 3.0, and that makes him high up on the list behind Max Muncy as far as WAR goes, but he leads all of them. That's been good for the Orioles. And then Trey Mancini, who we've talked about, who's probably going to be the comeback player of the year, not just because of coming back from cancer. That's probably a big part of it, but also because he's been kicking some butt. He's got 41 RBIs, 10 home runs. He's really been an inspiration for the Orioles, and I think a lot of players in the league.
Yeah, definitely. That's a lot to come back from and to be back on the field. So that's good for him. Jack Flaherty of the Cardinals is 8-0. Is the first Cardinals pitcher to begin a season 8-0 in his first 9 starts since Bob Gibson did it in 1965.
I was going to say, who else?
It was a good year for you, 1965.
Yes, it was.
And we would be remiss if we did not mention the Rangers swept the Asterix.
Yes, we would. And in that, the Rangers, who are also all but mathematically eliminated, it seems. Unless the Angels fight them for it, which they're trying to. had a little funny thing happen. In a game, Joey Gallo, off of first base, falls. Now, that happens. You come turning around, you slip or whatever, you fell. The funny part of it all is that someone in the Rangers organization went out and they did a chalk outline of Joey Gallo, or supposed to be Joey Gallo, laying about a couple of feet off of first base where he fell. They put like his shin pad on the ground out there, his elbow pad on the ground next to everything, the helmet, and then they put up like a rope and stanchion, like the tall orange cones, and then they put up the yellow tape around it like it was a crime scene.
It was crime scene, yeah. And he walks out and I'm sure had a good laugh. Basically, he's like, this ain't right. This,
At least,
come on, guys.
At least they were.
But you're having fun.
Yeah, they're having fun, and that's good. That it loosens things up. Because if he comes out and he's all upset and uptight about it, and honestly, if there's somebody that might move when the trades time come up, Joey Gallo's a guy I don't see being a Ranger anymore. So he'll have that as one of his favorite moments, perhaps.
And if it takes putting up crime scene tape at the grill and they can sweep the asterisks, do it every time when they play.
Exactly. And then, sadly, or not so sadly, the somewhere in Florida Blue Jays played their last game somewhere in Florida for this season. They will be at the beginning of June. We mentioned this before, but at the beginning of June, they will become the Buffalo Blue Jays. They're hoping to eventually return to being the Toronto Blue Jays. But for now, somewhere in Florida has been abandoned, and they're on their way north to Buffalo. And that'll do it for this week's Sibling Rivalry Baseball podcast.
Remember, you can find us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, and on Facebook and Instagram at Sibling Rivalry BB.
We're also on Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. Email us, show@siblingrivalrybb.com. We'd love to hear what you think, so subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to our podcast.
Next week on SRBB, we find out who's in the field of 64 for the Division I college baseball playoffs.
Ooh, does that make us a Division I podcast?
It's a Wham Wednesday.